Hello everybody, Reggie Time here, and your eyes are not deceiving you. I am playing a 10NL Zoom session. The reason I am doing this is purely for the purposes of making a video. 888 and me have had a divorce. It's there's been some long-term now disconnect issues. They've been going on for the best part of a month. I've deposited and redeposited 2 or 3 times now. Been rigged every time. Every time you think it's back, it's going to go good, and then it just doesn't again. And I've kind of had enough of it. So my main grind now is on Sky Poker. But the problem with Sky Poker is it's tough to make decent videos on Sky Poker, because if we're just 2 tabling regular tables and we're trying to just make 20 to 25 minute videos, it's way too likely just nothing is going to happen in that time. So I've just put an incredibly small amount of money onto Pokerstars with the intention of hopefully making it last and making a few videos. I mean, obviously if we run badly, it's not going to last. Well, who knows? I mean, I expect I'm going to be a significant winning player at 10NL on Pokerstars, but I've literally got like $50 on the site, so it could quite easily just not happen for me. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm not going to turn this into a Pokerstars sucks video. I'm not intending to spark that debate again. It is what it is. My feelings on Pokerstars are well known. If you don't know what they are, let me just see about this dry board with my flush draw. If you don't know what they are, please look at my Reggie Time versus Pokerstars videos, and you'll get a good grasp of what I think about the site. So we got check called on this board. I think when we get check called here, he's going to have a slow play 10 some of the time, a lot of medium pocket pairs. I'm going to go for a triple barrel here, so I'm going to go quite small on the turn. And the plan was to then go big on the river if I bricked, and maybe small for value on the river if I hit. I've been called in 2 spots here when I opened ace 3 suited. Kind of hard to get value here. If I see by that board, I'm almost over-ripping my hand. Because I'm ripping a much, but by over-ripping my hand, what I mean is, how can I best word this? I'm overplaying my hand more than over-ripping it, because it's kind of it's not going to be hard for people to put me on the ace and go over a check raise because he made the bet way too small. And we'll get back to the point in a minute, but I'll come back in a moment. We'll sit out next hand on both tables. I'm going to just fold the ace queen off there. I'm going to go for another check raise here. Didn't work out, but hopefully we can just get some nice value on the river. And we did, which is nice. So, just to go back at the point I was making, because it wasn't making it very well at all. Over-ripping my hand was a wrong way to describe it. Overplaying my hand, because when I c-bet that board, it's not going to be very hard for a player to put me on an ace. So when I get called, if I had a hand like ace king or ace queen, I could be happily getting called by exactly what he called me with, ace 4, you know, anything that's basically worse, any ace that's worse than ace queen or ace king. And when I'm value betting ace 3 there, as we can see in this exact situation, I'm actually value owning myself against ace 4. And sure, most of the time we're going to chop with ace 4. The way the board's going to run out, we're going to find ourselves chopping it most of the time. But that's not really the point, because if he's got ace 9 or ace 10 or something like that, we're almost never going to chop. We're going to need to suck out like we did. So yeah, that's what I mean by overplaying my hand. It's not enough just to have the best hand and be confident you've got the best hand. When you're making a value bet, you also have to be confident that you can get called by enough worse hands. And on that board, for sure, I could get called by some worse hands. Get called by flush draws. Get called by some straight draws if he's in the business of calling me hands like 5-4 suited or 4-3 suited, those type of things. We can even get called by some pocket pairs that are just being stubborn. So it's not to say we can't get value with that ace-3, but it's kind of thin setting off value betting top pair no kicker out of position on the flop. Because we're going to get called and we're not going to have to proceed on some turn cards, we're going to sometimes end up value warning ourselves like we talked about, or we're going to have to checking at some point and then just like checking and guessing. So it's not really good poker to just always see bet when you hit top pair. Kind of realise what sort of situation I'm going to be putting myself in if he calls and what can I get value from. So I just selected to check the flop, and I was going to check call against a normal size bet, but when he might bet 10 cents, I didn't really know what to make of it, but it wasn't enough money going in on that flop. I mean, I could easily just check call there. I don't want to check call and check it again to somebody who clearly doesn't have much of a clue about appropriate bet sizing. So we're going to keep checking to somebody who's not going to put enough money in the pot for our liking for hands that we're ahead of, and maybe just give too many free cards away. So I went for the check raise, and then we got bailed out by the turn. But had I not hit the turn, I went for another check raise in the turn, because when he called, I was kind of hoping he might just open the pot again so I could just have shoved it on him, or made another raise and hopefully committed him. It is an unusual line to go for the double check raise, but I think against bad players, like I suspect Giovanni is, or will be, because of his stack size and his bet sizing, against bad players I think it can be a fine line, particularly when it's not going to be too hard to get the money in if they make any kind of stab. When we got to the turn, for example, we got to the wrong hand there, so we can play it back through. When we got to the turn, there was 220 something in the pot, and we had something. I didn't realise I had that much money. I do apologise. That point I just made isn't quite as valid then. I still think a check raise is a fine option there, because if he suddenly does decide to bet a reasonable amount, like 140 or something like that, it's going to put him down at $6. It's going to be $3.60 in the pot. So we can conceivably add a shove or just make a raise and then we give ourselves an easy opportunity to get it in on the river. Whereas if we just bet the turn, if we bet say 120 here or 140, he calls, we're not going to be able to shove the river, because we're not going to have the pot's not going to be set up properly. He's going to have $6 left, and there's going to be about 140, 280, going to be $5 in the pot. So we're going to be doing ourselves an overbet, which we don't really want to do once we turn top two pair. Not top two pair, once we turn two pair against a bad player. So I think I'm fine when we're going for the check raise again. Unfortunately, he just didn't bite, so no harm done. We maybe lost some value, but I think overall I think we're going to make a decent amount of money with that against a player who I expect not to be in the business of folding an ace, if he's got one. Aces. We do like pocket aces. So we have somebody here from Ireland. No offence to Irish people, but they wouldn't be the best poker players in the world. So I think there's a more than reasonable chance, based on where the country is from, that we can get some action by 3-betting here, and we didn't. That's unfortunate. I have been scoffed at in the past for trying to gain early reads on player types by the country they come from. It's absolutely possible. Sometimes it's wrong, of course it's wrong. But I think we can make some assumptions based on, if we have no other reads, making some assumptions based on country is absolutely fine. So against the Eastern Europeans, you're not going to want to be treating too many of them like the fish. Against UK players, against Canadian players, against Australian players, maybe you are going to want to treat them more as like fish, like you would fish, and make more exploitable players against them. We're not going to see that this board is super wet. We have no equity when called. If he checks again, I will probably double barrel now, because the ace is a good card for me to represent, and he's just like massively overbet the pot. No idea what's going on there, but more than happy just to fold. King Queen suited versus a cut off min raise. Just gonna call. Don't particularly want to 3-bet fold a hand as strong as King Queen suited. We could 3-bet for value, of course, and expect to get called by worse, but I'm happy just keeping the pot small enough and then hoping to see some flops. And I think my advantage in these games is going to be definitely more of a post-flop advantage than a pre-flop advantage. These guys' pre-flop games are going to be not great, don't get me wrong, but they're going to be better than their post-flop games. So if I want to try and find an edge in these games, I think I'm going to find more edges post-flop than I am pre-flop. Because one thing I think Zoom regulars do have at all limits, not solid pre-flop games, but better. They're pretty well practiced at the whole pre-flop thing. And I'm not that well practiced at them. I mean, fine, I know exactly what I'm doing, but it'll be where my edge is the smallest against players. I will have a much larger post-flop edge than I will pre-flop edge. So I'm happy to keep pots smaller pre-flop and then use my expected larger skill advantage post-flop to be able to control the size of pots when I want to control them, to be able to extract value when I want to extract value, and to bluff quite effectively. And the higher the stack to pot ratio we leave post-flop, the more skill advantage is accentuated. Which is why I think a lot of these pretty moderate bad regulars get away with all this pre-flop nonsense that they do. And why they do it so much, it's probably because they're just subconsciously, or maybe even consciously, they're aware that the deeper stacks are post-flop, the less good they are. So perhaps it's in their interest to be bloating pots more pre-flop. If that's not the reason why they're doing it, it's certainly helpful for them, that's for sure. So we had a player who snapped c-bet pretty small. I'm just going to float here with my good shot and look to try and pick the pot up if he shows weakness. And obviously hope to hit sometimes too. And now we're just going to go for a double barrel. If he's doing this with a king, well then congratulations. He's going to win 65 cents from me, plus probably around another $1.80 on the river. So I would say I 3-bet way less than most taggish regulars. Way less, I would say significantly less. My 3-bet is around 5 to 6%. And it is because I believe I do, because of the way I play poker, the way I approach poker, I don't, I'm going to see bet this very dry board by the way, probably double barrel it. Because the way I approach poker, which is playing lower volume, more focused, I believe I have a significant advantage over most players post-flop who are playing way more hands than me and playing way more fit or fold than me because they're playing way more hands. I mean, I could be wrong with that, but it feels true to me. It feels right to me. I see some regulars just playing very exploitative post-flop, just playing badly, basically. I think we could be in trouble here with the king-queen off, but we clearly can't fold to a probable fish. He's a bronze star, which fair enough, probably better than me. I'm not even bronze star, I don't think. He's got no money and his 3-bet sizing was awful. So he's going to be a bad player probably. He's probably just going to have a very good hand, but when he gives us such a good price, folding is out of the question. Ace 10 suited. I think I'm going to go for a 4-bet bluff with this against Owen. Because he seems pretty active. I've seen him a few times now. He seems reasonably active, so he's going to go for a very small 4-bet bluff. Which could be a mistake, because I mean, I don't know anything about Owen hardly. But he does seem pretty active. So Ace 10 suited is going to be one of the better hands I can 4-bet bluff with there. It blocks a lot of stuff that he can just 5-bet shove on us. And well, not a lot of stuff, he blocks some of his 5-bet shove in range, and on top of that, if he is in the business of calling, Ace 10 suited is going to play pretty well. Wow, these people are on the 3-bet patrol tonight. Where's this guy from? Russia. Let me just sit out next hand here a minute so I can try and find him. 0211, etc, etc, etc. Can we sort by that? Are all the numbers at the bottom? Who knows? There he is. So he's playing 3 tables. Probably going to be a regular. Well, definitely going to be a regular. Going to fold. I think cut off. If it was button versus small blind, I think I might just have 4-bet and got it in there. But I think cut off versus small blind versus a regular, it's just enough reason for me to fold. So the problem is going for the player search. And this guy's only got 1 entry, so I'm going to call these guys open because I think I'm going to be able to play him a lot post flop. The player search isn't a good thing to do on Pokerstars because most regulars are hidden from search. But if we can try and get away with it for this session, because it's just going to be a lot easier than just scanning the lobby and trying to find out more about an opponent. We're completely bricked here with the 10-9, so I won't be floating if he see bets. If he doesn't bet though, I'll probably 2-barrel. Because it's quite a dry board and we can get peeled by pocket pairs and then just fold the turn. When it has played, we're just going to fold. Probably shouldn't be auto check folding the Ace-6. Now I'm just going to fold it. So again, not a particularly good board to see bet, particularly into 2 players. So I'm just going to check. Now we pick up a bunch of equity. We've got 12 outs now, 12 clean outs. So we're definitely going to go for a bet here. And probably not bluff the river. Just bet the river if we hit any of our outs. And just to go back over that hand, because my videos are aimed at beginners, so let's just sit out for one moment and we'll talk about why I didn't c-bet the flop and why I did barrel the turn. So we'll go back to the flop. First and foremost, and we obviously open the Ace-King, totally standard. These wet flops, they are really not good boards to c-bet. We have to consider when we're c-betting here, are we c-betting for value? Almost certainly not on this board. It's arguable that we could get some very thin value from some draws. Who knows, like flush draws could give us value, straight draws can give us value, but we're not always going to get to realise all of that value because sometimes people will fast play the draws and force us to fold. If Mika or Mickey called us and we bricked the turn, are we really going to just double barrel him on this board? Almost certainly not. So someone like Mickey could conceivably have like a 9-10 of spades here and just always win the pot on the turn when we don't improve our equity or improve our fold equity. So yeah, I don't think it's a good board to see bet as a bluff. Sorry, as a value. So as a bluff, does it work as a bluff? What better hands can we get to fold? I kind of think we're only going to get 2s through 5s to fold with any kind of regularity on this board. Some tighter players will fold back pocket 7s. Who knows what? Ace-6 maybe if they have Ace-6. So we can get some better hands to fold, but not enough in my opinion to make a bluff worthwhile. So if we can't bet for value and we can't bet as a bluff, the last reason is maybe to collect some dead money. But on that board against 2 players, I don't think we pick up the pot enough in general just to collect the 95 cents. The concept of folding dead money is if someone's, for example, sat in there with a hand like 9, 9-4 is a bad example. A hand like Queen 10 or something like that, who isn't going to call a bet if we bet, but he's going to check if we check, and then we're just going to let them free roll into that equity. So if someone's in there with like a hand like King X or Queen X, they're never going to bluff with it. We can just sometimes consider betting just to make them fold their equity share, because if they've got a good shot there and a queen and a 10 which are all live, they've got 10 outs against us. It's kind of nice to get somebody to fold 10 outs, particularly if they're never going to be able to bluff catch against them because they don't bluff. So yeah, we could try and sometimes bet to collect dead money, but I'm not sure on that board texture there's that much dead money in that pot. So yeah, overall there was no reason to bet there. So we get to the turn and it's checked through, which is an indication that players either have no showdown value or weak showdown value. But Mickey, if you just imagine if Mickey there had a hand like King Jack, 10 Jack, Queen Jack, who knows, even pocket 10, something like that, he'd be mighty tempted to bet for value, protection, call it what you will. So when he does a bet, it's not hard to assume that Mickey has a smallish pocket bet that's just bricked and he's trying to get to showdown, or he's got 2 unpaired cards that have missed and he's decided not to bluff with, or he's got some weak showdown value like an Ace-6 type of hand, pocket 7, something like that. So when we turn, and as for Sever, he's checked twice now. He's shown no interest in the pot and he's giving up pretty much all the time. But we've turned a bunch of equity. We've turned a nut flush draw and we've turned the nut straight draw. It's not going to be the nuts if we make our straight, of course, because people could have a flush. But we've turned a heck of a lot of equity. So now we can conceivably win the pot. Well, we can always win the pot with the club, unless it's like the 9 of clubs or the Queen of clubs, which we might not always win then. We can frequently win the pot with the Queen, and we can sometimes win the pot with a King and an Ace. So that's a lot of outs. Let's just count them quickly. We've got 9 flush outs. We've got 3 offsuit Queens. We've got, so that's 12. That's 2 aces and 3 aces and 3 kings. Sorry, there's like 18 outs. Now we can't count them all because some of them won't be good. But it's a lot of, it's enough equity to definitely bet this turn as a semi-bluff, because we can definitely get some better hands to fold now. We can get pocket 7s to fold pretty frequently. We get pocket 5s to fold all the time. And when we do get called by these sort of hands that should really be folding, we're going to suck out a decent amount of the time. So that's why it was a good, even though the flop bet wasn't a good time to bet, the turn bet with the extra information that Mickey had checked back and that Sever had checked twice, plus the fact we pick up a bunch of equity, that's what turned it from a flop check to a turn bet. So I hope I've explained that fine. And we just dial back in. We'll probably play through now until we get one more hand that gives us some kind of discussion point, and then we'll call it a video because we're already 24 minutes in and we played a grand total of, how many hands did it tell me here? In the stats, won't it? 98 hands. That's all we played in a 24-minute session, but I'm fine with that because it's not really about seeing me play lots of volume and lots of hands. It's about me making a video where hopefully enough interesting things happen in a short period of time, so we can just get a few a few decent talking points across. I'm going to bet twice now here with my 5. I'm going to not turning a 4 into a bluff. Well, I am turning it into a bluff, kind of. Well, not kind of. I absolutely am, because I think we can definitely get better hands to fold here. I'm not betting for value here. I'm 100% betting to try and make a better pair fold. A hand like pocket 6s, pocket 7s, pocket 9s, maybe even pocket 10s and jacks. There's lots and lots of better hands I can make fold there. I could have showdown value, but even if I do have showdown value, it's vulnerable. My hand is very vulnerable, so I think when it checks through twice, it's a good time to bet. I bet that flop for value there on that dry board. I think we can get caught by some pocket pairs. Not many draws, but obviously we're only worried if he's got a queen. Do I want to bet this turn? Because what did he call the flop with? There's no draws out, so he has some kind of pair, more than likely. I'm just going to check back here and not call on that particular river. If he checks, I may well go some very, very, very thin value from pocket 7s, etc. When he bets 36 cents, giving us over 4 to 1 on a call, we kind of have to call here. I expect him to have a weak queen a lot, like a hand like queen 10, queen jack, maybe queen 9, something like that, a decent amount of the time. And he had even worse than that. He had queen 4, but whatever. I mean, if he bets a reasonable size there, it is a fold. My plan was to fold the river until I saw he made such a small bet, and then kind of it's a crying call time. Because we only need to be right there around 20% of the time, maybe even less than that. I'm not sure the exact math. Can't remember exactly what the pot was and how big his bet was, but it was certainly giving us really great pot odds. So when we're getting good pot odds, it doesn't matter that we lose most of the time, because our pot odds are compensating us for that. I think I've been 3-bet at least 7 or 8 times this session, which in around 100 hands is a lot. And I'm not going to go into an anti-Pokerstars rant. I felt one coming then. I've had to bite my tongue right there and then. Just had to bite my tongue. Not going to do it. So I think we'll 3-bet our King 6 suited here as a bluff. Against someone from the Ukraine, playing a full stack, probably a regular. Then we're going to get a decent amount of folds against that kind of profile there with a hand like King 6 suited. We get 4-bet, we have a trivial fold, and when we get called, we have a hand that's somewhat playable. So we're going to make these pocket queens the last hand of the session, so we'll sit out next hand here and here. First of all, let's just play this hand on this side. So we're going to c-bet our ace queen against someone with a bronze star who hasn't got a stack. Do I want to 4-bet here against Sosa, some Argentina? Hopefully we can get some more information in time. Looks like he's only playing one table. So yes, I'm going to 4-bet my queens. Smallish, because we want him to call with worse. If he 5-bets me here, I think there's a very good chance I'm going to fold. And I want to talk about this, and I am going to fold here, and I want to talk about why I'm going to fold, because I think his range for doing this is just going to be aces, kings, and ace king. At best, maybe he doesn't even do this with all his combos of ace king. So let's just look through what happened there. We'll end the video on this. We've got one table in player. We've opened under the gun. He's made a min 3-bet. Min 3-bet from one table in play is usually an indication of strength, but pocket queens is clearly a very, very strong hand. And I don't want to just call this 3-bet. I think there's a good chance I can still get value from hands he's going to call with. I think his 5-bet shoving range here is, unless he's a maniac, and I don't know about this guy. He could be an absolute maniac. He might just have 7-2 off there. But we're going to assume that he's a normal 10-L type fishy player. Because we have to assume he's a fishy type player when he makes that bet size. So we're not going to assume he's a maniac. We're going to assume he's a normal 10 and L fishy type player. He can absolutely call with worse hands that he does this with. He can do this with hands like pocket nines, pocket tens, ace queen in particular, ace jack, things like that, and he can call with all of them. So we're actually making a small 4-bet for value. Well, by for value I mean we're making a small 4-bet, a size that he can absolutely call with lots of worse hands, but safe in the knowledge, or not necessarily safe, but reasonably comfortable folding to a 5-bet, because I'm going to make the assumption right now that most 10 and L regulars min 3-bet to 50 cents aren't 5-bet jamming really bad hands. Maybe they are, who knows? I don't play these games enough, but I doubt it. So I'm going to assume this 5-bet jamming range is going to be largely pocket aces, pocket kings, and then a decent amount of combos of ace king, but perhaps not all of them. Perhaps not all of them, and perhaps he doesn't even always jam kings, who knows? But you think he probably does. So that's why there I think 4-bet folding is entirely appropriate. Now back in 2009, 2010, people used to say we can't 4-bet fold 2 queens in that spot because we're turning 2 queens into a bluff. Absolute poppycock. We're not turning into a bluff at all. I'm 3-betting them, expecting to get value from worse hands in his calling range, but safely assuming that his 5-betting range is going to have to be crushed. So I think 4-betting for value and folding to a shove is absolutely fine there. And if people tell you it isn't, without reads, they kind of just... It can't be terrible, don't get me wrong, it can't be terrible, but I don't think it can be great. Because I think people are going to be too heavy with ace and kings there, and not enough jacks and ace king to compensate us. So yeah, that's my reasoning for doing that. It's not standard, and I'm sure some people will disagree with it. But that's why I took the line I did, and it's been a nice way to end the video. So I hope you enjoyed it, I hope you got something from it, and the good news is I've got enough funds left on Pokerstars to make another one next week sometime. So thanks for watching. Until next time, take care and goodbye.